welcomed or unwelcomed predictabilities or unpredictabilities. We have basically four options. We have welcomed predictability, unwelcomed predictability, welcomed unpredictability, and unwelcomed unpredictability. Few examples, just for the starters, to make it more clear. Welcomed predictability is, of course, most, or in the case of, let's say, normal text receivers, social text receivers, normal people, which is like the point of view I'm mostly treating this topic from. So, welcomed predictability is anything from, let's say, guaranteed social institutions in the traditional sense of the word, such as education, health system, functioning authorities, security, safety services, and so on. I mean, you want something to work, and it really works, and it works thanks to the fact that the people have somehow agreed in their, let's say, social written or unwritten contract to be helping each other, to be interactionally cooperative, which is basically an extension of again Paul Grice's communication cooperation or cooperative approach. And we have unwelcomed predictability. Well, I used once an example of boring, tediously predictable stay with of a small child with prudish grandparents, where every day is the same, and fully predictable to a point that is no longer bearable, or is reflected in the perceiver of such a text, in the little child, by creating boredom and not liking this thing at all. Obviously, a punishment that results in somebody's stay in jail, which bears certain similarities with the just mentioned example, and so on. I mean, anything that one can anticipate or predict, and is not happy about it. And some people that whose ability to systemize and predict, anticipate things is higher than in others, it may result in an increased feeling of boredom, where others simply rejoice because every day seems to them as different, because it's not the main patterns they're after, or they skip their attention and they focus on small things that keep changing, or they're unable, maybe in some cases, to identify similarities. Paradoxically, people with an increased ability to follow and find and identify patterns may be suffering more of boredom than people who lack this ability or possess it in smaller quantities. Well, and we have unwelcomed unpredictability. Again, rush hours, traffic jams, chaotic environments, war, whatever, let's say, cacophony in music, some kinds of art for some people, and all, let's say, displays of, for most people, of chaos, chaotic behavior that bears no traces of regularity, and thus the quality of being predictable. Most people, and especially in cases where this unpredictability is happening outside any known or identifiable paradigm, do not or evaluate or identify, feel about it as unwelcomed experience. They tend to avoid, escape, or prevent in the longer run, again, by tending to forming such rather ritualized social patterns that may be small personal habits on the one hand, on the small scale, and again social cultural, civilizational institutions on the large one. Last one, welcome to unpredictability. Here, it's mostly jazz music that comes to my mind. The improvisational parts, where the listeners are after each controlled, sophisticated, and well meditated yet spontaneous shift, slide, omission, addition, change, modification, norm violation, because and that's most likely the important thing about it, because these are happening in a paradigm that as a whole is predictable or structured in a way that, or announced, it's pre-announced or known for offering, namely, these kinds of welcomed unpredictabilities or events of unwelcome unpredictability, or events of welcome unpredictability, that is within these paradigms specifically sought after by those who appreciate them and follow them. Obviously, jazz concerts isn't for everyone. Similarly, as modern art or already Cubism, Um, um, uh, Classic example, Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, by Pablo Picasso, one of the first Cubist painting, that is basically composed of only twisted shapes. That means of a whole series of norm and for that reason expectancy violations. It simply isn't cherished by many, but on the other hand is sought after and appreciated by others. So welcomed unpredictabilities is perhaps an area in which most people disagree, in which most people disagree about their tastes and preferences. But what counts for us is not each particular preference, let alone judging whether this or that is correct, or whether this or that is a real cultural deviation, or this is a path forward, or whatever. But we need to generalize, and if I speak about all these examples, I only speak about them, or I speak about them really only about as examples. So regardless of them, the main message is to say that there is something that can be viewed as or identified as welcomed unpredictability, and that is in most cases the domain of art, of artistic production, and where, as it has already been said multiple times, that is based on sophisticated, purposed, and strategically placed norm violations by the authors into their texts, in order to be so perceived, which means as welcomed, or a series of welcomed expectancy violations by such texts, perceivers, viewers, spectators, listeners, readers, or whatever. And namely, this is something where the art mechanism or principle, or the principle of defamiliarization, estrangement, and artistic value is rooted, and which is the efficient agent thanks to which art is functional, and functional in the way art is considered to be functional. That means, namely, by not respecting the norm, but by sophisticatedly violating it.